The Laws of Ascension, Chapter 75, Ambush. That went better than I expected. The man says while looking at Vera. He turns around to see Lorik, and his smile disappears. Where's Seraphina? He asks, though Vera and Lorik remain silent. The man sighs before shaking his head. This is why I insisted on spying on the matches. Now I've wasted these for nothing, he says before shrugging. Oh well, you two are strong enough. Killing you here will at least prevent you from getting in my way later, he adds before raising his arms. He points his palms at both Lorik and Vera. The flesh around his wrist bubbles. Move. Lorik shouts in a panic while jumping out of the way. Vera moves a moment later, just as a ball of flesh shoots out of his palms. They shot through where they were standing. Each ball is only a few inches in diameter. They crash into the barrier around the stage and expand rapidly. Fleshy vines grow out of them and cling to the barrier. Good instincts. Maybe it's fine that Seraphina isn't here, the man says before turning to face Lorik. He points both palms at him as Lorik summons his wolves. 6 giant phantom wolves jump out from behind him and rush the man. The man ignores them and shoots more fleshy balls from his palms. These ones expand into fleshy nets in the air. Lorik jumps up, manipulating his gravity to jump over 10 feet high. Gravity? The man asks as the wolves close in. Vera closes in behind him at the same time. She started rushing him when Lorik's wolves appeared. The man spins around while swinging his right arm. His hand disappears, sinking into his wrist. Then his wrist bubbles, and a long blade made of flesh takes his hand's place. He swings it and collides with Vera's sword. As they clash, spikes grow out of his back. They skewered 2 of the wolves that had jumped to pounce on him. The other 4 circled around. The 2 skewered wolves disappear as his spikes sink back into him. Vera's sword cuts through his flesh blade, spilling blood on the ground. Her blade sinks into his shoulder before he jumps back. Lorik slams his fist into his back as he jumps back into Lorik. There's a loud snapping sound as a sense of danger rises in Lorik's mind. He pulls away and quickly jumps back. Before he gets away, spikes grow from his flesh. They bend and twist to chase him down. One of them cuts his shoulder before he gets away. They only grow to be 5 feet long before sinking back into his body. What the hell kind of law is that? Vera asks as she walks around to Lorik. She kept her eye on the man, ready to react to whatever he does. I don't know. How are you holding up? Lorik asks her. Fine. What's the plan? Vera asks back. I'd say kill him, but look at his shoulder and hand. Lorik replies as Vera takes a look. His injuries have completely healed. The only evidence he was injured is a small scar over his shoulder. The man is too busy looking at it with shock to have noticed Vera walking over to Lorik. Let's keep our distance from him for now. It's dangerous to get close. But try to go for his head. I don't believe he can regenerate that, Lorik says as the man turns away from his scar. Vera reaches out and casts Destructive Ray. It cuts through the air, aiming square between his eyes. The man smiles before the flesh on his neck expands. His neck grows to be 3 feet long in an instant. Vera's ray goes through his long neck before it returns to normal. Nice try, kid. Now let's stop playing around, he says as the flesh around his chest bursts. Blood sprays to the ground as Lorik's wolves slam into him and Vera. They knock the 2 to the ground as several small balls of flesh pierce their phantom hides. Lorik and Vera can see through them, watching the embedded flesh balls expand into several fleshy roots. The roots then pierce out of the body before slamming down on the wolves. They fade away, leaving 2 large piles of fleshy roots. Run, Lorik shouts while getting up. Lorik and Vera start running around the arena. Lorik's last 2 wolves follow them, splitting up so they each have 1. The man just smiles cruelly while his body keeps bursting open. Every burst spills more blood on the ground and shoots more flesh balls. He can launch a volley of flesh balls every 2 seconds. Each time he needs to regenerate before he can do it again. On the 12th volley, the wolves slam into Lorik and Vera. The man had learned to predict their movements already and would have gotten them. They each get up, now only 10 feet away from each other. The man launches another volley, and they each dodge. However, Vera was a step too slow. A ball of flesh embeds itself into her right arm. She stops and holds her arm out, holding her sword in her right hand. She holds her left hand next to her head, and a magic circle appears on her palm. The moment the flesh roots tear out of her arm, her destructive blast spell activates. The roots it touches burn and turn to ash. But she had protected her head, so 4 roots that burst out below her arm were unaffected. They pierce her stomach and legs, 2 in her chest, and 1 on each leg. Blood spills from her arm, the flesh roots now the only thing keeping her arm attached to her. Her hand goes limp, dropping her sword. Vera! Lorik shouts after turning to see her after hearing her sword clatter to the ground. She falls to her knees while coughing. Blood spills from her mouth as she collapses. That's 1 down. Stop running and I'll make it quick. Unlike with her. The man says with a laugh while turning to Lorik. Lorik just stares at Vera, a mix of emotions running through him. The man's about to attack when a roar pierces the air. It comes from the depths of Lorik's soul. The man hears it and tenses up, though Lorik doesn't hear it at all. His eyes change from cruel joy to alert in an instant. Lorik brings his right hand to his mouth as mist pours off his green ring. A bottle of murky white liquid appears in his hand. He immediately downs it, chugging the bottle before tossing it aside. The glass shatters on the arena floor as white veins grow along his skin. The veins have a faint blue glow. A small blue sword embeds itself into Lorik's forehead. His aura changes as it does. He goes from being a Tier 4 lesser mage to a Tier 1. Lorik hears the sound of glass breaking as he becomes a 10th tier mage. The roar from the depths of his soul comes again, stopping him from continuing to 9th tier. There's another sound of chains breaking as the sword between his eyebrows disappears. 2 new laws emanate from Lorik's body as his soul's ability transfers its laws to him. Lawfield, Lorik says in a quiet voice. His tone is a little different from normal. The ground around him changes color. The stone floor gets dyed brown. The air turns light purple. And sharp blue grass grows from the stone. The entire arena floor inside the arena changes. If it weren't for the barrier, it would have covered a bigger area. The man jumps up as phantom wolves appear. The wolves are smaller than the ones summoned from Lorik's spells, but there are 20 of them all facing the man hovering in the air. The man suddenly falls from the air, a look of shock on his face. An airban! He nearly shouts as he lands back on the ground. 20 swords made of blue light appear in the air surrounding the man. The swords appear above the wolves and point down toward them. They lower and sink into the wolves. The brown phantom wolves grow as the swords merge with them. They gain a blue tint, and their claws and fangs become sharper. What laws do you use? The man shouts while looking around. Each one of the wolves emits an aura of a 10th tier mage. Although they're the weakest of the mages, far weaker than the man. They make up for it in numbers. Go, Lorik says while pointing at the man. The wolves snarl and roar before closing in on the man. 1 wolf runs to Lorik's side. Lorik gives it a small green ball about the size of a fingernail. The wolf carefully carries it over to Vera before crushing it in his fangs. Green mist appears from the crushed pill. The mist seeps into Vera's wounds before the wolf turns and joins the other wolves attacking the man. The man shouts as 2 more arms grow off his shoulder blades. All 4 of his hands turn into blades again. He cuts through the wolves as they jump, leap, and slam into him. Every time he cuts a wolf, it fades away and disappears quickly. Immediately after, another wolf appears back around him and merges with another blue sword. Then it rejoins the rest of the pack in attacking the man. Enough! The man shouts while 2 long tentacles grow out of his sides. They slam into the wolves, crushing them all. Then they close in on Lorik. Lorik jumps up, the law of gravity dyeing the air purple, enveloping him. It carries him up and away from the fleshy tentacles. As Lorik gets lifted, he takes a deep breath. He casts Beast Roar, causing the magic circle to appear behind his head. A wolf's head pokes out and roars. However, the man doesn't react to the soul attack. Lorik looks at him stunned as the man leaps up. His tentacles ball up straight above him before swinging down on Lorik. Blue swords appear in the air and cut through the man's tentacles. The flesh reconnects right away, not even slowing down the tentacles. The swords fly over and form a wall above Lorik. The tentacle slams down on them with a loud bang. The gravity in the air acts on the man again, pushing him down. As it does, Lorik watches him closely. In each of his eyes, a magic circle spins. Now that he's been promoted to a mage, his hunter's vision spell has improved. He can see more than just aura now. He's able to see the man's soul veins. However, his veins are faded, something he instinctively knows is not normal. A small blue string appears in his sight, connecting the man to the place where the space was cracked. He sees 3 more strings leading outside the barrier. "You're a puppet," Lorik mutters in realization as the man goes wide-eyed. He stares at Lorik in shock, wondering how he found out. In the end, he just smiles. "You're right. I'm a puppet. That means you can't kill the real me. You'll never get your revenge for your friend. Instead, you'll just die here to a puppet." The man says cruelly. "No, I'll just cut your strings," Lorik says while snapping his fingers. The sharp blue grass on the ground lights up. Hundreds of small blue swords appear above the grass, followed by 20 larger swords. They all point at the man before shooting toward him. The man's forearms and tentacles sweep through the air, cutting and smashing the swords. But there are too many for him to break. A bit more than 40 of the small swords and 7 of the larger ones pierce his body. However, they don't cut his flesh. Instead, they sink into his body. Not like Headmaster Arlen's vines, though. The man doesn't react or feel anything. Lorik watches as almost 50 blue lights travel along the string into the space crack. The man looks at Lorik in confusion before his body bursts apart. Flesh and blood rain down across the arena where he was. His aura disappears along with the 4 strings from the crack in space. Lorik watches carefully, waiting for the flesh and blood to stop moving. After it does, he turns to Vera. He takes a step before another roar comes from his soul. This roar causes Lorik to lose consciousness and faint on the spot.